Hi there, SundayRaw here. I am in desperate need to talk about the Puff Daddy doc, the Diddy doc, the reckoning that 50 Cent made happen, whatever. Well, I know that he had a young lady named Alex who actually directed the docuseries, but he played a part as a producer, and he told us it was coming as soon as it even looked like Puff Daddy was in trouble, that this doc was going to be coming out. But it's out, and I think something, a film, when it comes out like this, a documentary, when it's so polarizing, it's just such a trip. So I work with a black man, and he was like surprised. I don't ever understand how people are surprised when it comes to stuff like this. I just don't. And he was like, yeah, all that stuff, like he's gay, and he never wanted to pay anybody their money. Have you been living under a rock? Hello? Puff Daddy, I feel like he's always been a villain. And I feel like I've always seen it with my own two eyes. And real world fans know that is a quote from Tammy Roman. Season 2 in Venice Beach. But seriously, like, I don't know how anybody is surprised. And that's what creeps me out about people. I'm easily creeped out by people, but this really creeps me out. So anyway, like, yeah, he's like, oh, he's gay, and the basketball game thing. I'm like, oh my god. So a lot of this stuff I feel like I've already known. TMZ had a documentary that also came out recently, and that one was good too. Same thing, they like to focus on, they liked, I mean, this is something that Puff Daddy might like, since he's such a fan of the Joker. But the origin story, right? His origin story, they call me Mr. Glass. Origin story is that, he grew up in New York. He did have hustle. His mother may or may not have been involved in being a lady of the night, allegedly. She poured liquor, okay? And Puff Daddy, I think part of the urban lore is that he saw his father's get shot in the head. But like, I've heard it told that he saw it, and then I've also heard it told that it was like just something that had happened to him as a young child. Oh, I'm dry and crispy with this wig, but she's giving something that I'm feeling. But anyway, yeah, so we know he came from a single parent home. That's probably why he's a piece of crap, according to the right. Just kidding, not. But yeah, they had some money, and he was the runt, if you will, and he would prove himself through his work. And it sounds like, once he had his eye set on something, it was going to be happening, which is great. All of this stuff is great. What's wrong is that, he turned to a monster so quickly within the process, right? Like, like, will you live long enough to see yourself turn into a villain? I'm pretty sure that you did. What's weird is that being extremely successful always turns you into a villain, right? So it's inevitable on some level. Once you become rich enough, beautiful enough, even smart enough, you become a villain, So, that's definitely happening here. But it kind of seemed like he just kind of always had a dark energy. Now, my mom, who is no longer with us, used to always say about Puff Daddy, like, I don't like him. He's got black eyes, and he's not talented. And by black eyes, she meant his eyes are black. Now, I have very dark eyes as well, that do look black quite a bit. I'm like, hey, are you talking about me? But no, like, there is a darkness to his eyes that's slightly monstrous, that people really don't talk about. That picture when he's little and he's like just staring like out of the bottom of his hat like this, and he's like making a little, what you talking about, Will's face? He looks like he's trying to be an evil big bad boy in that photo as well. He just always had an energy. He knew how the world perceived him, so he had to puff up. Isn't that like where he gets his nickname from? So anywho, I mean, I feel like we all know the story. You know, he came from that type of a kind of cool party household, which I came from a party household too. Like, I remember, oh, Jesus, thank God nothing happened to me. But I remember one time, like, my mom would throw, like, parties, gatherings, like, she would be cooking, and then that would always turn into, like, people coming over and having some liquor and maybe a little bit to smoke or whatever in our house. But everybody pretty respectful. I would just, you know, grew up around grown people, speaking like grown people, dancing and getting the stress of the week out at our house. And I remember a few times, I've always been an avid reader, that I might be in my bed at like 11 at night, or maybe 1 in the morning with my door closed, with my little light on my bedside, like trying to read. And somebody would be like, oh, let me read with you. I mean, maybe they didn't sound like that, but I'd have like an adult person in my room, like connecting with me, like, what are you reading? Oh, look, it's my heating pad on my hip. That's how old I am. And they would be like, you know, I'd have grown people in my room. Now, thank God nothing happened to me. I don't think my mom really kept a lot of company of folks that would do something to me, but you just don't know. So maybe, you know, Diddy got diddled, and not to make it like a joke or something, but, you know, you got to watch your words on the YouTubes. Maybe that's what happened to him, you know? So, ooh, did you hear that? See, that was my leg popping. Oh my gosh. Oh my God. Okay. So, my body's having a reckoning. There was like a fire alarm in my building, and I had to like go down 14 flights, and it destroyed me. And I had already tripped and fall this weekend and tried to make it look cute, trying to go on a mini hike and like hurting myself. But I did go to a Christmas party, and I got to wear an ugly Christmas sweater. So, I mean, I can't complain. But anyway, whatever. So we know that. We know about the basketball game. I feel like this is all common knowledge stuff that we know. We know that those people got killed at the basketball game. It was oversold or something, and then people were trying to, you know, bust the door down. I mean, isn't that just what happened to Travis Scott, or whatever his name is, the one that Kylie Jenner is with? Isn't that what happened at his concert? So, I mean, you know, that stuff, it cycles and repeats. Like, y'all don't know how to have a safe event. But anywho, whatever. Those people were trampled to death, and then we watched the footage of him like meandering around, very similar to when 9/11 happened, and George Bush was like, looked like he had forgot to, like, he forgot how to read, he forgot how to sit, like he was lost within that moment when that happened. I'm not laughing at 9/11, but to see your president just like bewildered and have absolutely no idea how to even swallow the moment. That's what, for lack of better words on Puffy's end, but that's what Puffy looked like. Which, I mean, I don't assume that he'd know what to do, but the way he looks in that footage, it's like he's thinking, he's trying to think, he's trying to figure out a way to get out of it. You know what I mean? So, you know, yeah, so we know about that. We also know about him having maybe, all of this is alleged, okay? But we also know about him having 1 to maybe 2 girlfriends. When he was in college, he went to Howard. These notorious relationships where he was abusive to these young women. One of them, and again, this is just from what I remember growing up, okay? And I'm younger, you know, than the chocolate guy I work with, okay? But anywho, well, not that much younger, but younger were like, he should know these stories more than I know them. You know what I mean? Like, these generational stories are more a part of his generation than they are mine. But maybe not, who knows? And maybe he had kids by that point and was not paying attention to this stuff. But this, I just feel like it's common knowledge. So yeah, he had 1 or maybe 2 girlfriends. One of them that he, sounds like he accosted and assaulted in like the quad of the college, and a lot of people saw it and nobody stepped in to assist. So there's that. I remember that. I remember maybe hearing from a previous documentary or an interview of his of how like he's vicious. Again, bringing up like, you know, how he ain't gonna lose no fight. You know, he knows how he comes across, how he appears. So he's always trying to huff and puff himself up to be bigger than he is. So I knew about all of that. I knew that he was a hustler. I remember at one point, growing up, where there was like a list of people to be a personal assistant to, a celebrity personal assistant to. And it was Oprah, Puff Daddy, like Martha Stewart, Jay-Z, like it was all these people on there. But it was like, if you have this on Donald Trump, if you have this on your resume, you can work anywhere in the country. You could do anything. You could run your own business if you want. Now it's a bunch of crap because these, working for, oh, not to say Oprah's corrupt, okay? But, working for somebody who, may not have the best ethics or integrity and giving them your all. That might not be the smartest thing to do in the first place when you could dedicate that time to your own company and yourself. But I do remember that at some point, if you have that on your resume, you can just walk in anywhere in America and get a job. Like, okay, girl. Now imagine what that's like. It's like wearing a scarlet letter if you go somewhere and you're like, I work for Puff Daddy. They're going to want to know about the parties and your involvement. And they might still think that you're somebody who hustles, but you're tainted. You're tainted by that. So anywho, again, I'm just not surprised. I just feel like everything is just full of poop nowadays. I feel like, if somebody's nice to you and kind to you, that's also a surprise. But it's just so rare. And the world is just full of people like this. You know what I mean? So anyway, we know that. We know that he was a hustler. We know that there's gay undertones, which, again, who's surprised? Not a big deal. Now that I'm grown, I think that a lot of these, and I'm just going to say it because I have to say it right now, okay? But I am on a B word, N-word diet, as per usual. But anyway, I think all these niggas are gay. I really do. Like, I watch the way that in my own life, how somebody can do something really, really freaking messed up to somebody. And then the men in the community will be still want to honor them, which is, to each their own. But I've heard the stories of guys that I know that are abusive to women, and they have no, continuously in different ways, but the same ways. And I see them get to keep their group, their community. A woman, she sleeps with the wrong guy, quote unquote. She fibs on something. She's out of the freaking group for forever. She murked somebody, there's no space for women making errors, but they can, So I did see a lot of that. I feel like Puff Daddy knows what he looks like, that he's not the most attractive crayon in the box. I feel like that's why he has to steal everybody's girl and all of that stuff. I also feel like he knows he is manipulative and concise with his manipulation, so he has to be in positions of power in order to work, because he's not going to get there off his looks or his body, or really, if you just set him down and give him a test to take, maybe his smarts. But he knows how to put shit together and manipulate stuff, which is also a talent. Scheduling and structuring and organizing stuff. These are very good skills to have. I do think that he has that. I don't think he's some dum-dum. I'm just saying. So we watch him climb the ranks, we watch all of these homosexual relationships, which is I'm not against anybody being gay. I just sometimes wish that they could just be open with it. Allegedly, and these are my own thoughts. I'm just literally saying the word allegedly, but it looks like Andre Harrell and, Puff Daddy had a relationship. We know him and, the guy that was his, vice president, or the guy who was under him, the one with the dreads who looks so worn out, that he had maybe a sexual relationship with Puffy. It's okay. I think it's interesting that he's gay. How cool would it have been if he could have been out back then? I love it. But yeah, I think a lot of men are gay. the way that they perform and bow down to each other. It's very, very, like, it's erotic sometimes, like how much they love each other and they stand each other and they stick up for each other. I guess that's wonderful, but it's also like, you know, it's okay, you know. So then we watch him basically have kind of the same relationship with, you know, Misa that he had with, you know, the next baby mama and Kim Porter, and all the way through till he gets to Cassie. Then he doesn't want to have any more kids, so he can hang that over her head. But little did they know when they hired, I wonder if she hired Alex Fine, her husband, who's fine. He is pretty fine. If she was the one who hired him, that's interesting. Or Puff Daddy did, like, to give her a way out. Interesting. But, you know, he likes to control the women, and he controls them however he can. So we watch that. We watch, you know, like I was saying before, his rise to fame. We watch him connected to so many different types of higher up Caucasian people in the industry, from Rosie O'Donnell to Ellen. Well, the lesbians, of course, we're gonna be drawn to him. He's like a chameleon when he's around them. He's like, he's kind of fun to hang out with. But we watch him, you know, kind of kiss the sky of that upper echelon of society. And, you know, it's fun to see. It's exciting to see, like, Black excellence, which I think is the term that he was trying to coin, is some real shiznit, man. But, like, you know, it hits in this way when you see it, like Puff Daddy going to the Grammys with J-Lo or whatever, or, you know, them having like these quote unquote the larger performances of the VMAs or whatever, having money, having the cars, having the women, you know, like, you know, it's nice to see. But it is also nice to see it when it's, you know, just Denzel Washington and his wife walking the red carpet, or Viola Davis and her husband walking the red carpet, you know, or what is her name, Misty Copeland, the Black ballerina, like watching her rise, like that's also Black excellence too. But anywho, we get to watch his rise to fame, and then there's always stuff like surrounding him that is rooted in violence. And didn't he like pee on Drake and the J-Lo shooting? That's somebody who's silent, right? She went radio silent. Mary J. Blige hasn't had much to say either. Neither has Lil' Kim. It makes you wonder. You know, what happened there just to be so quiet. These are people that seem actually pretty boisterous in general, but for this, radio silent. What if there's still like a fear there of Puff, that he can touch them, do something to them? Interesting. So we watched the whole Cassie thing, her like being gobsmacked in that meeting where he's like gonna give her a 10 record deal, and she looks like a Disney kid. She's like, me? Yeah, you're gonna be basically handcuffed to this evil demon for as long as he likes and as long as you like, okay? Although, you know, abuse, especially physical abuse, which I have had done upon me as well, and I have done as well in defense of what was happening to me. I never started no stuff, but we'll finish it, okay, when it comes to that. But anyway, you know, like just her living, you know, in bondage with Puff is just terrifying and scary. But then there's levels of liking it, you know, which is going to happen when you're around celebrity and money and all of that. But anyway, so we see that. We see her, you know, kind of file her case in the background. Again, we see Puffy, you know, stealing women from other people that are in these relationships. You know, Misa, Kim, Cassie was with somebody else, a producer before, you know. Also, one of 50's ex-girlfriends, right? She was also not in the documentary either. You notice that? Didn't he call her you little sex worker or something when she was involved in the Puff Daddy case originally? And she went on Tasha K and sang like a gosh darn canary on there about Puff kicking her in the stomach, and a little bit of the lifestyle of like a little bit of sweet, of him taking her somewhere and buying her something and doing something nice for her. And then the flip side of that being, you know, it's going to beat the crap out of her whenever he feels like it, you know, like so awful. But yeah, she was kind of coincidentally left out. Interesting. So anywho, and then we also see flashes of him, you know, the manipulation of it all. We watch him get into drugs and all of this stuff, but we do see the manipulation of this video that he was supposed to pay the videographers for while they're capturing these very real moments of him just being himself. Again, who's surprised? Being an a-hole, not wanting to touch the people on the street in New York, even though he's strategically there to kind of rebuild a part of his icon, picturesque self. And then we get to, you know, the trial. But also we get to, you know, Biggie and Tupac, and how literally 50 Cent, or also our director, they really are painting the picture that he has something to do with them both being murked. You know, so he could come in and dance like a little kid at the party. Dance, puppy, dance, you know. So anyway, you know, it was sobering, but again, like, who's surprised? But there were some things that stood out to me that I just want to talk about quickly, that I find interesting. So I do find it interesting that just need more attention, just a little bit more highlight, a little bit more spotlight, a little bit more contour, which is like anybody who works with Puffy ends up looking depleted, like they're going to pass away any second, and penniless. Like, how is that a pattern? And then the other pattern is like, wherever he goes, there's harm that follows. So, I mean, look how he treated Craig Mack, you know, and Black Rob, and all these people that have gotten sick and died penniless. Hell, even Kim, which another story is of Kim and Puff Daddy fighting on a yacht somewhere where he breaks her nose and she's still partying on the yacht. I remember seeing those pictures a long time ago. So same thing. I knew it was from fighting with that a-hole. But people don't, he, like I said, like my mom said, his eyes are black. He's absorbing your energy just to survive, especially like, you know, he likes feminine energy and black people energy, but then he wants to, you know, steal all our energy and then go hang out with the whites. Which there's nothing wrong with calling white people the whites. But that's in public. He wants to be around that type of look. But he's eating us. He's eating, not that I'm one of them, but, you know, he's not necessarily eating J-Lo. He was about to. He was sampling her. But, you know, anybody he could take advantage of and bring down several hundred notches, you know, so he lord above them. He's doing it. He's never saying no to that feeling. So I do find that very interesting. And I did take notes so I could remember. But I thought that stood out. It's like, oh God, anybody, you're entering a contract with him, that's what you can expect. Like, I'm going to be penniless. He's probably going to R-word me. He's probably going to eat my soul. And I'm coming out of this with nothing. You know, like, that's a guarantee. The other thing is, okay, so I brought up his childhood photo, which, what little kid is taking a picture like this with his eyes low, deep into his shoulders, like giving you an evil look? You know, like, one who's bad. So that stuck out with me, like, even as a little kid, he had an energy like that. The other thing is the 3-day sex. Okay. So they hire this escort who looks like Puffy 2.0. Okay. Pretty much he does. And he's telling the guy what to do. And at first he's concealing his identity. And then eventually it turns into, you know, they're just going back and forth with Cassie nonstop, doing drugs for days and days. Okay. I hear about this stuff all the time in these movies. And like, I can barely have sex for 3 seconds. I don't understand why or how, and people are so sex obsessed, just like the booty, like even like the BBL and like the coochie. No, the ding dongs, okay? I'm trying to be mature about this, but I can't. But, you know, for me, sex it's good. It's just so fleeting. And I don't want to have sex for an hour. First of all, it's going to hurt if it's longer than really like 10 to 15 minutes. And then if I don't like you 100,000,000%, like, it's not going to really feel that good. So I don't really understand the 3-day sex sessions. It just seems so base and just so like over the top indulgent. Like, imagine like you're with somebody and they want to have sex for 3 days. It's just, that's abuse right there. That's like a different kind of abuse. The baby oil with the GHB, that's another thing. You know, I think they found out that when they found that he had 1,000 bottles of baby oil at his house in Los Angeles, that it was like, that it didn't have drugs in it. But it's just funny because that was like something that was happening in the 90s. I feel like the 90s, I always have to say it with an English accent, the 90s, the 1990s, that people were so greasy, like like my lips are greasy. But this is lip oil, pomegranate lip oil. But yeah, everybody was so greasy, like dripping with grease. So I wonder, like, is that something he learned, or is that something that he was like, I'm gonna mix this with that. You got your peanut butter in my chocolate. You got your chocolate in my peanut butter. You got your GHB in my baby oil. You got your baby oil in my GHB. So that was a trip, like just covering each other in drugs and doing it for 3 days. It just seems so immature and childish. But also, as a woman, it's like all that sex might have probably hurt. Although I know some women can go and go and go, I cannot. Ay, caramba. All right, so that was on my list. So let me mark that off my list. Excuse me. The other thing that I need to talk about, and this is very important, is how Misa, with the blonde hair and the buns and the hot tub with Biggie, Misa was that girl. Misa is still that girl. But even so, like I just said, when you have a soul tie with Diddy, you leave it looking depleted. I haven't seen any like really recent pictures of Cassie. She looks pretty okay. I think she was able to get some of her spirit back by having children, by having girls. A long time ago, this guy, this older Indian friend of mine, told me girls are a gift. When you're expecting a child and they tell you that you're having a girl, it's a gift. So you should treat her as such. That always sticks with me. But anyway, Misa was that girl. She's still that girl, but she was really that girl back then. Oh my God, Misa. Style-wise, and then we also know now that she was the one who was responsible for Jodeci's look with the boots and everything. Misa she deserves her flowers. She was a style icon. I think she also styled Mary too in the tomboy look. Mary J. Blige was that girl too. When Mary J. Blige came out, I still have an influence of it with my hat and how I carry myself. Like, Mary was that girl. The tomboy look, the dancing, not doing too much, not over the top. And then all the rhythms, the beats, the dancing. Kim was also that girl. Kim is also like completely absent from this too. I wish y'all would speak. Also, Missy is missing. Missy is missing. Missy Elliott, come to the front of the class and talk about the 1990s. So, you know, that's not lost upon me. But yes, Cassie is beautiful. And I do feel like in this, they're like, she's so beautiful. She's so beautiful. She is beautiful. But let's not forget about the other girls, okay? Let's not forget about Misa and Mary. And now they're in a lawsuit. Jeez Louise. They're in a lawsuit over an artist or something. Okay. Puff Daddy always wanted to be a performer. That's what he was snaking to do. He always wanted to be on the stage in some like 5 Heartbeats way where he is stabbing somebody in the back to get on the stage and be back at one of his mama's parties dancing. Go, go, go. Because that's what he always looked like to me when he would dance. Is like he was dancing for his mama at her parties. Go Puffy, go Puffy. Like, talent there, but not real talent. Janice, Allegedly, okay, even though this is my opinion. There is some Lady of the Night energy up in there. There is. Pouring liquor and the drop-offs. What you dropping off? What you picking up? Okay? For whom? But they might have already been connected to that life because of, you know, where Puff's dad was. I mean, they say that he was a gangster. Not only a gangster, there's a scene, an American Gangster with Denzel Washington, where a character gets blown in the head. And that's supposed to be around, well, get murked. Gets his head blown off. And that is a small storyline that is actually supposed to be dedicated to Puff's father, just to show you how involved he was in gangster life. His little fur coats and stuff. But my cousins dressed like that when they were little. That's why, I mean, that part's not a big deal. Oh, my cousins would be dressed to the nines like the Jackson 5, just to all oiled up and stuff. Maybe that's a part of the culture too, that we are not ashy. Maybe that's why the oil look was so popular in the 90s, or just in general, jerry curls and whatnot. Anyway, moving on. But my little cousins, I had 3 play cousins growing up that like basically became my real cousins, and they dressed like that. My sister was dressed to the nines, still is. I was too. Now I wear Nirvana t-shirts and Coach necklaces. Go fig. It's dressed, but certainly not to the nines. So yeah. And then everybody says her wigs are bad. I feel like, you know, not everybody has time to lay down a wig. I speak from experience. Just slap that thing on your head and get going. Not everybody wants to wear a freaking ball cap, bald cap literally, and glue a wig on their head. Some of us want to like take our stuff down at night, take our hair down at night. Like, geez. But anyway, some of us don't want to pay $1,000 for somebody to glue a wig to our head. Some of us just want to wear some weave and throw just something cute and a little different on their heads to, you know, try and, you know, evoke a look. Okay. But I do feel like this is a wig that Janice would wear. So we ain't going to talk about her wigs too much, because then it brings it back to me. Okay. But then we're going to tell, or her pieces, her units. Okay, Albie Shore's unibrow. So my sister was more into Albie Shore than I. The unibrow, even as a kid, was something that I was like, what is happening here? Why are you guys so into this guy with the unibrow? There's something kind of, he's really good looking and cute now, Albie Shore. But back then, it just wasn't hitting. But I do remember the Albie Shore call line. I was always tempted to call one of those lines. 1-900-909 Albie Shore. Girl, be sure. Or whatever the number was. I wanted to call Miss Cleo. I wanted to call Dionne Warwick. I wanted to call everybody. But I didn't. But the unibrow to be... Can you imagine nowadays being a pop star and having a unibrow? Oh, gosh. The sex appeal of his unibrow. Now, is it me or... Here's another thing. Is it me or was Faith Evans' energy weird when they got on the stage at that one award show? It was Source, and then Puff Daddy was like, we're trying to get East and West together after Suge had said, you know, his classic line of like, if you want to, you know, be an artist and not have the producer dancing in the videos, all up around the women in the videos, then come to Death Row. That was a moment. I do remember watching that, maybe live, or maybe we put it on a tape. Back then we would run and go put in a tape and record it. But when Faith Evans was up there with Puffy, she looked high. She looked so high to me. I was like, oh my God. And then also when the guy was there was an interview towards one of the documentary, I think it was number 3, where they're asking if she slept with Tupac after he made I After B. And she was like, I'm pregnant with Biggie's baby right now. I didn't do nothing. Like, she looked high there. So I wonder about Faith and her relationship with drugs. I don't know why. That just came up, allegedly. But also, Faith Evans was that girl when the Biggie One More Chance video came out. Okay? Man, and I just remember even back then just looking at the girls like, yes, wanting to be one of the girls, one of those girls. So then the other thing I wanted to mention is just, you know, people are like, how does this happen? How does this happen? I have had I've worked for celebrities in the past as a personal assistant, and there's some you know, some star effing involved, right? Like, you're just so excited to be around the celebrity, and that's where the grooming comes in as part of the process, especially if you're coming from a lower end of the tracks. Like, you know, J-Lo probably did not experience the same type of abuse Cassie did, because she was coming from, you know, that a blended urban white side of the industry when they were dating. Oh, I remember when I was still married and my husband was like, look at her in the dress. And I was like, oh, she looks great. He was like, no, look at how sexy she is. I'm like, okay, I get it. Damn. I used to always have a boyfriend like that. He would always be like, look how sexy these girls are. It's like, okay, I'm not fluid like that just because I look at people. I look at women. I look at men, you know, like they would really be like, no, look at her boobs. Look at them. All right. So I do feel that star effing from the person that's being abused is a part of the grooming, right? Because you're like kind of starstruck, like, oh, we're staying up 4 days, we're working on a song, he's gonna pay me, like, you know, it's some of your we grandize, you know, being in their presence because of their celebrity. We're brainwashed. So I did definitely see that with Little Rod and with Cassie. Like, why didn't they leave? Well, everybody's asking, why didn't Cassie leave nonstop? Why didn't any of the men leave? Huh? All of the men could have left too. Puff is a literal mouth breather. Like, when they show the videos, he's like, every single picture, he's got his teeth out or his mouth is open. And that shows you his true character, just like some villain plotting in the corner with his mouth open, taking everything in, not giving anything. Puff is a thief. He's a real thief. He'll take your music, he'll take your soul, he'll take your body. Like, he's a very unsafe person to be around, his type of thievery. He'll take your style. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, I did notice that. Like, how many pictures are you going to have with your... And I did like seeing everybody's old teeth as somebody who had Invisalign 3 times and probably has to have another 2 times until they're officially really straight. But I like seeing everybody's old teeth, like Andre Harrell's teeth and even Puff's teeth and even Biggie's teeth. Okay, let's honor the glory of Tupac's beauty, okay? How beautiful this man was. And how fashion forward he was. That one scene at Puffy's birthday, where they show Puff and he's like in a zoot suit with like a little hat. And I think Big is even in like a zoot suit, striped suit. And Tupac has on like a medallion in that sweater with the way that the way he has this part rolled all the way up, so it's all nice and chunky off of the wrist. And he just looks like something I would wear today. Like, amazingly beautiful man. And that's something that the jealousy of Puff Daddy toward Tupac, like, God, just imagine being around somebody that beautiful all the time and you're just like, you feel like chopped liver. I feel like I've had that in my life. I've elevated other people's beauty, but Tupac was just so beautiful. You know, like, damn, it must have felt like kind of impossible for him to not feel like he was shrinking around how beautiful Pac was, because no matter how good the music was, Tupac was just like, oh. And then also, like, how in the documentary they're showing like how the East Coast was trying to do their version of the West Coast with the like their first like set of debut songs, you know, like I Get Around in comparison to Biggie's song, you know. Like, I mean, you could see the connection, but I grew up in the West Coast. I grew up in California. It was going down out here. The energy was like that. And it was a little bit more progressive, I must say. Just a little bit, just with the fashion alone. Something about, you know, wearing the jerseys and the baseball caps and the Kangol suits and all that stuff, which is cool. You know, in California, like I said, like Tupac's wearing like this beautiful cashmere sweater with a medallion hanging out with, you know, Madonna. You know, the energy was just different. But Tupac was fine as hell. And then, okay, and this is just like a quick little flick towards the end, but Puppy's daughter's still twinning. Like, I'm ready for one of y'all to be, to dress differently. At least nobody's gonna go through a tomboy phase too, identical twins. Not to say that they have to, but I'm just like, y'all still dressing like twins at this age. And I know twins are weird, like not weird, but they have their own thing. My grandmother was a twin, and I have an odd connection to twins, which I'll speak about or write about at some point. But I always think it's weird when I see them and their hair's done just alike. Like, all right, we got it. You're twins. We get it. Whenever I see them, I see that. And it also looks like it's something that's pressed upon them to keep them immortally young, immortally youthful, something like that. Okay. And then the jurors weren't shit. You know, like, I always say that. I'm like, the views that I have, I feel like I'm barely progressive. I feel like I'm just like on the cusp of being a progressive. Like, I fall into traditional quote unquote male female roles when I get in a relationship with a guy and be like, I'm like, oh, I want to make sure his dinner's ready when he gets home, and I have to like I have to undo all of this like weird crap that I learned. Like, here's your beer, honey. All this don't worry darling energy. Yeah, so I feel like I'm, you know, I still have these old school ways that I'm trying to undo that are toxic, right? But in the long run, I'm pretty progressive. So to see those two jurors, to see how unprogressive they are, it just reminds me, like, you can be in your bubble and you're being progressive and you're like, you're pro-life and you're for women's rights, and, you know, you want, you know, free health care for everybody in the world. You want like all these things that you can't get your hands around, right? You want all these like things that are like 5 steps ahead, and then all the things that I currently have that are 5 steps ahead. Like in California, like marijuana is legal. Like in Huntington Beach, like the whole town smells like marijuana sometimes. Like 9 times out of 10, just walking down the street, people are, you know, putting out their joints before they go into Michael's Arts and Crafts, or before they go into, you know, the Rack or whatever, Nordstrom Rack. So I don't know. I feel like I live in this progressive place, but then I'm surrounded by people that I thought were progressive that aren't. Like, you know, you think that like an older Indian guy and that's been in America for a while, seeing a woman get beat up, seeing Puff Daddy beat the dog poop out of Cassie, which I don't want to be disrespectful to her. I didn't mean to say it like that, but like that he wouldn't see that as like, oh no, it's on again, off again. Like, no, boo, that's not what that is. That was not a very good Indian accent. I apologize, but still, like, oh my God, how backwards are we? How backwards are you? You know what I mean? Like, imagine if that was your daughter. Are you really saying, oh no, they in love, it's all on again, off again? Or are you just starstruck? Or are you just taken aback by the money and their accomplishments? Like, you know who Puff is. You know, because I will say that Puff was that guy too, you know. But I could feel like I just always saw that he wasn't a good person. I could always see that evil streak. You know, but thank God, you know, not that anybody like that would want to get a hold of me, but nothing like that happened to me. Like even the first girl in the documentary that, you know, he had just met and then assaulted her and then videotaped her unconscious and would play it at a club in front of people. Like, what kind of person is this? Like, on some level, like when you be like, I have a mother, this is bad, you know, like I shouldn't be doing this. But I do remember, you know, men just kind of being like that now and then, you know. And then the other girl being like, yeah, like I'm talking about the Capricorn Clark, her testimony in court in the documentary, and her being like, yeah, I would just kind of like look at Puff and like, you know, I knew what he was thinking. Like, see, there's that star effort energy, you know, like these people are not. We can love them. We can build them up. Like I said, Puff was that guy. I mean, I was never excited to see him perform. I knew he didn't have that thing ever. But, you know, I do remember a few times like, I'm kind of proud of him for doing that or this or that. And to hear that this is the real him, it's like I said, who's surprised? If anything, it just kind of made me go, I knew it. Aha. And I hate being a spectator who's doing that. I knew he was like that. But you knew it too. You knew it too. So with that being said, the people that were touched by Puff in a negative way, they definitely need healing. And yeah, the story is coming out as part of his demise. Even if he's in there another 10 to 15 years, people are still going to want to take pictures with him like they were when he was waiting to go to jail, when he was waiting to go to trial, you know. But the stories must go on. And that's the part of the show that really must go on, is his tales. They shall live on. And maybe he'll do something good. Maybe he'll actually, him actually getting caught and going to jail, maybe he'll reform his behavior and become a good person. Nah. I don't see that happening. But anyway, I just wanted to get that off my chest. I'm building this channel. Please subscribe and send a super thanks. Thanks. I'll see you soon. Love ya. Bye.